Good evening. I don't have much time with you today, so for the duration of this report, I'm going to need you to refer to me as Jaguar. For my intelligence analysis class, I've been assigned this case, and it's something that's very near and dear to my heart, so pay attention. Football related injuries are something that has been very widely talked about over the past several years. The NFL has had a large number of season ending injuries, too many to even count. Former players are even coming out now and saying that they felt the effects of these injuries long after their playing careers have ended. With this recent spike in NFL injuries, I think it was time for us to take a look. Is there a way that we can prevent these injuries, or do we need to tell people to stop playing football altogether? Throughout this report, I've come across four key judgments, things that I've discovered that I think need to be brought to your attention. The first one is how often this happens to these players. Within the last 5 years, you've seen an extreme increase in the number of season ending injuries, whether that be torn ACLs, ankle injuries, or even worse, concussion related injuries. Players are now being treated for these injuries in an array of different ways, and we've had such an advancement in technology. You would think that these numbers would eventually decline, but over the past 5 years, they have just steadily inclined rather than declined. The second takeaway that I want you guys to understand is that these injuries are beginning at a younger age than they have ever been before. 70% of players that play the sport of football begin before the age of 14. That means that these players are sustaining head injuries long before their brains have finished developing. Research has proven that now that these brains have not been fully developed, you are doing irreparable damage to them by causing major head trauma before the developmental stage has even finished. The third judgment I want you to understand is that former players are the ones that tell the true story in this report. You're going to see a lot of testimonials by former players, and I want you to understand that these players lived this. That they are now telling you that after they've finished playing, they are seeing things such as depression, mood swings, anger, things they've never experienced before that they can attest all back to playing football. The last thing I want you to understand is that the severity of these injuries are becoming insurmountable. Um, the ACL tears, these head injuries, they're becoming a problem for these NFL players. They are having months and years of recovery for one injury just so they can get back to playing the game that they love. Now, I've sent you this file. It is encrypted, so if you don't encrypt it the right way, it will self-destruct. But I want you to take a look at it. On that file, you're going to see a chart. This chart is statistical data from the 2011 NFL season. This is going to show you all the injuries that have taken place in that season. As you can see, knee injuries, thigh injuries, ankle injuries are extremely high. Those are the most common injuries you're going to see in the NFL. These injuries, depending on the severity, could take over a year to mend from. You also are going to see there's over 300 head injuries in one NFL season. What you got to realize, the NFL plays 16 games in season, so that means you're seeing 300 players have head injuries in just 16 weeks of play. The trigger word for this report is going to be CTE. All that is, in layman's terms, is basically repeated traumatic head injuries that are sustained. So after you sustain these repeated head injuries, you develop CTE. CTE has been found in nearly 100% of deceased NFL players that have let their body be used for scientific research. CTE has been linked to these mood swings, these crippling depression, and anything like that these players are feeling is all going to be drawn back to the CTE. That means that players are actually beginning to have these things before their playing career is even done, and they're starting to develop these mental inabilities way before their playing career is ever done, and obviously only increasing as the more injuries they get and the more injuries they sustain. I think that is so important that the NFL continues to implement policies and procedures into the game that they play, such as the concussion protocol and things like this. And I don't want to just call out the NFL in general. I want you to understand that we need to be able to put these things in place of people at younger ages, people under the age of 14 especially, with their brain being in that developmental stage. We really need these procedures in place for them to be able to play a game that they love, but be able to play it safely. Um, the last things I want to bring up is that this report is based a lot on former players. Now I understand that although former players are not licensed medical professionals, they are the firsthand experience that have done and played this game. So although they cannot diagnose themselves. I feel like they are still a credible source to be used in this report because they're the ones that it's happening to. Um, I think that even though they're not medically trained, I think they're still a very good source of information. Um, the only bias that I could conjure up throughout this report is that you're going to see a lot of former NFL players that are actually still working for the NFL or any NFL affiliate or sports network affiliate. Um, of course they're not going to want to cast this big shadow on themselves or anything like that because they don't want to lose their job or lose their badmouth their employer in any way. So I think they might have a little bit of bias and a little bit of tendency to hide the effects that they're feeling, just fear of repercussion of being sued or the affiliate snatching their job away. Um, I want you to understand how important this subject is and that we need to make sure that we get to watch NFL on Sunday with a clear conscience and that we know that there are things in place for these NFL players and for their families because there is life after football. Thank you for listening. Have a good night.